All right, I know geometry is a long unit, but we're almost there, guys. So one of the topics that you're going to need to know is to how to find the area and the circumference of a circle. So you really need to know how to go between the diameter and the radius of a circle. So if you see a circle with a line going all the way through the center, it goes from one side of the circle to the other, that is your diameter. It goes all the way across. Your radius is half that amount. So your radius starts from the center of the circle and goes to the outside. So let's say hypothetically this circle has a diameter of, let's say, 12 feet. If the diameter was 12, the radius is going to be half of that. So that's the relationship between the two. So in this case, your radius would be 6 feet. To find the area of a circle, you have to be dealing with the radius. So that's probably the most important thing to remember about the formula. So the area of a circle is pi times your radius squared. Now in some questions it will say leave your answer in terms of pi. That means you write the symbol and then you just take your radius and raise it to the second power or multiply it by itself. Now, sometimes it'll say find the area of the circle and use 3.14, which is usually what we use for pi. So in that case, we would be 3.14 times your radius to the second power. Again, it's important to note that area always deals with radius. So if you were given the diameter on an area problem, you would want to cut it in half first before plugging it into your formula. Circumference, you can use either one. So circumference is pi times your diameter if you're given the diameter of the circle. If you're given the radius of a circle, you can use the formula 2 times pi times your radius. Again, sometimes it'll tell you to leave the symbol there, or sometimes it'll tell you to use 3.14 for pi. So let's look at some examples. Find the area and the circumference of the circle. So for the area, again, I'm going to use the formula. I'm going to use 3.14 times my radius squared. So this circle's great. This circle's wonderful. It's giving me my radius. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 14 to the second power. So 14 times 14 is 196. If I do that times 3.14, I get an area of 615.44 inches squared. Now circumference is like the same thing as finding the perimeter. So whereas area is the inside of the circle, circumference would be dealing with the distance around the outside of the circle. You got to pick which formula deals with whatever you're given in the problem. In this case, you're given the radius. So I'm going to use the formula that says I'm going to do 2 times pi times my radius. So 2 times pi times my radius in this case would be 2 times pi times my radius, which is 14, which is going to give you 87.92 inches. This is the circle that you have to be careful. Area again is pi times my radius squared. 26 is not my radius. 26 is your diameter. So we would want to first figure out, well, if 26 goes all the way across and that is my diameter, then my radius is going to be half of 26, which is going to be 13. So I would want to plug in 13 and do pi times 13 to the second power. So 13 times 13 is 169 times pi, which is 3.14, is going to give me 530.66 centimeters squared. My circumference, it really doesn't matter what formula that you use. There's one for diameter and there's one for radius. I'm going to use the one that's for my diameter, which was 26, because that's what was given to me in the original problem. So if I do pi times my diameter of 26, I'm going to get 81.64, and that's just going to be centimeters. I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own. I want you to find both the area and the circumference. And when you're ready, hit play to check your answer. So with this problem, if I'm going to find the area, I've got to be careful. I know this is my diameter because it goes all the way across. So that means that my radius is going to be 6, which is what I'm going to want to use in my formula. So pi times 6 to the second power is going to be 113.04, and that's going to be centimeters squared. Again, it really doesn't matter what formula you plug it into as long as you plug in the right value. I'm going to use the formula pi times the diameter since that's what I was given in the original part of the problem. So pi times 12, 3.14 times 12, is going to give me a circumference of 37.68, and that's just going to be centimeters. The last concept I want to talk to you about in the geometry unit is going to be volume and surface area. Fortunately for us in this class, we are allowed to use the formula sheet on your tier test. So as long as you can identify what the shape is, you're essentially just plugging in numbers to your formula to figure out the volume or the surface area. It is very important, since you are allowed to use your formula sheet, that you are able to identify what shape you're given into the problem in order to be able to plug it into the formula on your formula sheet. For this unit especially, I would make sure that you have your formula sheet printed so you can use it on both your practice and on your unit test. So in this one, you have a cylinder. A cylinder essentially looks like a can. Most of us know a cube because that looks like an ice cube. A rectangular prism is essentially a box. A triangular prism has triangles as bases on either side. A sphere is essentially a ball. A pyramid, so some people get triangular prism and pyramid confused. A pyramid always comes to the point at the top, so think about the pyramids in Egypt. And then a cone also comes to a point at the top, but it has a circular base, so think about an ice cream cone here. I'm only going to give you a couple examples of this because, again, the expectation is that you're using your formula sheet and you're plugging in what you're given to your formula in order to come up with your answer. So with this one, it says find the volume of a rectangular prism that is 8 inches long, 4 inches wide, and 10 inches tall. So if you go on your formula sheet, it tells you that volume is length times width times height. So when you have these letters or these variables, which we're going to learn about in the next video, written side by side, that's going to indicate multiplication, which is the majority of the formulas that you're going to deal with on your formula sheet. So your length, width, and height would be 8 times 4 times 10. So 8 times 4 is going to give us 32, and then when we do 32 times 10, we're going to get a volume of 320. It's important to note that whereas area is square units, perimeter is just the units staying the same, volume is cubic units. So this would actually be inches cubed in this case. This one says find the volume of the shape below. This is where you really might want to print out that slide just so you know what these shapes are. This is a cylinder, so it looks like a can. The volume of a cylinder is pi times your radius squared times your height. So if you look on your formula sheet, this is what's given. Again, this means all of this is being multiplied together. So we're going to do pi times our radius, which is 8 squared, times our height, which is 15. Now your calculator can handle all of this at the same time, but if you wanted to take it one step at a time with the order of operations, 8 times 8 is going to give you 64. So now I would be doing 3.14 times 64 times 15, which is going to give me a volume of 3014.4, and this is going to be cubic centimeters. If you have any questions at all, I know geometry is a very difficult topic, so if you have any questions at all, please make sure that you're letting me know.